Very good. All please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have a couple of sets of minutes that need to be approved. Can I get a motion on the minutes? Make a motion. All in favor? Aye. Pete?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are.
I'm wearing a 20-year-old pair of contact lenses. I can't see. So we're like.
That's thirsty. Scratch out of the eyeball, that's good.
Yeah. I broke my pair of lenses, so there's. Okay, the financials are still as of March 31st. We don't have the ones for April as of yet, so just go over, we have total cash of $13,476,000, of which $10,597,000 is tabulated, and took money is $2,880,000. We have $727,728 in total outstanding commitments. That's just for the financials. Also attached in your package is the Form 990, which is the organization's federal income tax filing. And this is changed a couple times. I've made a couple of corrections, but this is copy that you have here is should be good for filing. And we will need a motion to accept the
Authorize its submission.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to authorize the submission. And, Kevin Hansen will second it too.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
If nobody else wants.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Linda, you doing reporting time again?
I am, yes. So we are up to date on all of our filings at this point, with the exception of, the project accounting report that's supposed to go to the DEP and the AVO, but that is currently being worked on by Keith.
And unfortunately, the ABO, we found out that if you don't save when you're online in there, and when you go to save it, if there's anything that's missing, kind of like that, it zeroes everything out and didn't take it. So I had to go back in and re-enter everything. So
Not easy. Yeah, those are supposed to be the directors. 990.
okay, what do you say?
Okay, 990, list of directors.
I think the page 8, maybe.
Page 8.
I'm not sure if that's.
Page 8 with people who had all resigned and
Is that what that is? Is that what that is?
Okay, yeah, no, it says resigned on it.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
What is this list supposed to be though, all the directors? Or just people that resigned?
It's the list of directors starts on page 7.
Oh, this is just.
So these are all people who were directors who are no longer directors.
Yeah, the
I mean, these
the
pages
form
are-
itself only has places for, like, I think 19 directors, and we've had more when you look at the people who dropped off up there, so there was another page. Which is what I think you're saying on.
Yeah, so what, the reason it threw me is because it goes to page 8, 9, 10,
Yeah,
back to page 8, okay,
yeah, the page 8 is a supplement to,
okay, that's fine, I apologize.
no, I'm glad you're looking at that.
After the meetings.
After the motion. Well, I looked at it, so. Okay, I screwed up.
All right,
The first time.
are you all done?
I am over.
All right, any questions on the reporting and filing dates? Kevin, where's Kevin? Here we go.
Next peak, but I am not peak. So we are currently sitting at about 755 kilograms. An actual project list of about 180. A large chunk of that is looking to be executed this summer, particularly with project intense. It's at a total of about 8 kilograms. It's a long project that will take a little bit over a year probably to complete, is my assumption. But we're excited to get that underway. And we'll have a list of other projects going into construction this summer and into the early fall to keep chipping away at the original 10-year program total that we hope to complete by the end of this calendar year, or is being contract to complete by the end of this calendar year. I have not received any feedback from New York State DEC about approval for the work plan which was submitted, so with you asking. And once that is approved and funding is available, start to look at rolling out any new projects that we can execute to account towards the 11 through 15 work plan total.
What the DEC are you waiting for to work out?
Sorry.
What the DEC are you waiting? Is it capacity or?
It would be Dr. Kowski and Christina.
She's the one that's.
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know,
I'm very,
very much understand that DC is buried as are all the towns, trying to get up and running and get things to the standards that they are implementing. Well, continue to ask, make sure that there weren't any issues. I don't expect there to be any issues with the work plan that was submitted in December, but don't want to do anything until we have the big check mark that says go ahead. We prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation just to remind everybody what it is we're doing here exactly and why it's important to keep you guys engaged. To be very upfront, we wanted to make sure that everybody remembered why we're here. And while new faces have come and gone, and new faces are here again, it's important to just refresh everybody's memory as to what it is we're hoping to accomplish through this. And the point of this presentation is also to transition into where this program needs to go for the next 5 years, what the board of directors needs to execute over the next few years, particularly with funding this program and finding new projects for the book. So Linda, you can get us started with that.
Can everyone see that?
Slideshow on the back. Oh, I'm sorry, you're doing something different. I just went for the PowerPoint, you can take the PowerPoint on screen.
Okay, so the reason we're here is to address the phosphorus requirements that came out in the early 2000s, late 90s, as part of the New York City Watershed Memorandum of Agreement. Linda, can you dive into the percentages? As part of the requirements from New York State and New York City DEP, all the municipalities within the watershed, both west of Hudson and east of Hudson, had to begin addressing water quality issues to the drinking water supply. Linda, keep on, please. You can probably go to slide 3. Great. So the memorandum of agreement gave way to the Code Watershed Basic Phosphorus Implementation Plan, which paved the way for establishing these watershed corporations. Or we existed, you guys went about this on your own. Whether it was the municipalities in Westchester, municipalities in Putnam County, each were trying to accomplish this goal. We realized on your own, this was a task that was way above anybody's heads to really come up with the funding and a plan to tackle these projects. So in your infinite wisdom, you came together, formed this corporation, fast forward about 10 years. And for the last 15 years or so, corporation has been leading this charge and trying to come up with new projects for you. Monitor your operations and maintenance program on your behalf, and to continue the phosphorus reduction requirements that you all were given through New York City DP and New York State DEC. Go ahead.
What's TMDL?
Total maximum daily load. You'll find that acronym used for essentially any contaminant that's you're gonna come across in environmental regulations.
So your body's water, like each like I think it's 137 pounds or something like that. That's how much phosphorus you can put in before you start screwing the lake up.
Right. Even in humans, we all have a maximum daily load of one thing that we can't, and anything above that would be considered, possibly poisonous or contamination for our bodies. The same concept in place. So as we're nonprofit, we install stormwater retrofit projects on your behalf. We do not fix your infrastructure on your behalf. We install projects to treat the water after your infrastructure leads it to a point where you can then, using your state DEC's guidelines, implement a retrofit plan for compliance for everybody. Municipalities have to work together. The idea when we came and created this was for bubble compliance to achieve the stormwater goals. Bubble compliance means no one stands alone. We all work together. Everybody enjoys the success of the program. Everybody has to account for the failures of the program. In total, we have about 166 projects, near 760 phosphorus kilograms of phosphorus that have been removed from pollution. So when we're looking at projects, when we're looking to identify everything that's within the watershed that we can attack, the goal is to always go after impervious cover, because impervious cover is creating the most pollution. It's going to give us the opportunity for more phosphorus reduction across the board. There are other factors that go into it. The size of your municipality isn't necessarily going to dictate your phosphorus reduction requirement that you may have. We'll find that if, in this example that's on the board, Southeast and Patterson are awfully close in size, but Southeast has more impervious cover. So Southeast has a higher phosphorus reduction number that goes along with it. If a municipality is covered in forest, there's not a very big phosphorus load until you get washed out from those leaves. So we have to target, in many cases, the residential properties, and we have to target impervious cover on those properties in order to get to our totals.
Each town, each kilogram number that the town's got individually or done by the DEC, not by us.
Correct. Yes, study was done in the mid-2000s, I believe, that analyzed all the reservoirs, everything that was loaded to each individual reservoir, what the TMDL of each individual reservoir was, and then by through the process.
So where we came up with a number for each municipality was done in about 2009, 2008 by the DEC. It started with a white paper that analyzed high intensity developed areas within each municipality to determine what the DEC felt each municipality could reduce its phosphorus. It was kind of an arbitrary study and came up with some arbitrary numbers because it didn't look at the overall municipalities and high developed areas, and it came up with a number projected out based on what they ultimately did in their implementation plan, laid out a framework for a 20-year phosphorus reduction program.
Okay. So bubble compliance again is we all succeed or we all fail. The idea is that not every municipality has the ability, the space, the real estate, whatever the case is, to necessarily execute those projects, just because New York State DEC said you have 20 kilograms you have to remove, doesn't mean you have real estate to do 20 kilograms within the municipality. So coming together allows us to identify the most efficient projects anywhere for everybody to get credit. So what is shared amongst everybody is the operations and maintenance costs for the whole entire program, and the phosphorus reduction progress and the goal. Now, want to make sure I don't, okay, so with operations and maintenance costs, again, everybody maintains something that's within their municipality. You all submit the bills to us. We review them, we distribute whatever amount of money needs to go back to each municipality. I'll discuss it a little bit more later, but again, the idea is that we have to share this goal as we're moving forward. If any one municipality does not participate, then you're all in violation. Every MS4 benefits from the shared projects, but every MS4 is out of compliance when operations and maintenance does not occur. So just because you address the projects within your town, it's not enough for you to claim you don't have an issue on your MS4 fund. So I just want to make sure that is very much hammered home for everybody. Please. Okay, so O&M compliance. Each municipality completes annual inspections and maintenance on their retrofit projects using their staff or through outside contracting. Any agreement that any municipality has signed with us states that the town is responsible for maintenance. At no point in time in that agreement does it say the highway department is responsible for your maintenance. Nowhere does it say Parks Department. The town has to find a way to make sure these projects get maintained, they're taken care of, so that the investment that has been put into these projects to address the permit continues to have a healthy life. Municipalities are expected to submit quarterly inspections, maintenance forms to us for reimbursement. Now, quarterly, I understand that everybody's getting out there quarterly, but we have that written in our maintenance manual to encourage you. But once you do it, just get it into us so we can review it and see if anything else has to be done. Typically, we get one submission every year, but please continue to, if it's 2 submissions a year, great. All that does is give us a chance to see what changes have to be made and how we can do this. All forms for the O&M can be found on our website under corporation documents and operation and maintenance. So on the example that I put on the side here, just again, to go through it. So hypothetically, if the maintenance for everybody across the board within the corporation totaled $1,000, let's take the town of Somers as an example. Somers has a requirement to remove 100 kilograms out of the approximate 919 kilograms that need to be reduced. They have about a 10% share.
Can I just make, I don't think it's 918.
It's 919
per year.
Sure. Yeah.
It's per 10 year, right?
Well, it's once we have all the projects actively moving, then we would be removing. Yeah. So town of Somers has a responsibility of approximately 10% of all the maintenance bills because of public compliance. So town of Somers then has to either write a check into the pot for 10% of the cost, which is just about $11,000 in this example, or provide documentation that tells us we did at least $10,000 worth of maintenance on our projects within the town. Anything above your benchmark, your number that was your shared responsibility can be reimbursed. Anything below, you have to pay into. So it's a combination of either credit for work you've done or writing straight checks to the corporation. So what I did here is the next 3 slides are just examples of retrofit projects that we should be tackling. Because I want to pull your attention to some of the areas as we continue moving forward. What we executed at the back end of last year was a work plan for the next 5 years to try to look at projects that we have the best chance of completing and the best chance of having a very strong efficiency on. Over the next 5 years, we have to tackle about 460 kilograms. Once again, the project list that we submitted to New York City DEC that I referenced earlier in the day was enough to get us to that goal, but by no means should it be looked at as a final document. And we have to continue identifying new projects that are out there. I chose this one in particular, Pocket Wetland, which is at John Jay High School. It was installed in 2015, and it is a fantastic example of a collaboration that we did with the school district. Their environmental departments, science departments use this as a point to bring kids down and look at what it means to be responsible for water quality. They use this as a teaching tool on site. We have lots of school districts within the area, and while I understand the school districts don't carry their own phosphorus goal necessarily, their only responsibility is a non-MS4, non-traditional MS4, is that they have to do something. We can step in and do that something for them with your cooperation and find ways to put these types of tools into the schools, because they can hit on your education requirements to some extent. You can involve the community because we have kids there, we have programs there that can help push this agenda forward and keep it in the forefront of everybody's minds. These projects are great because the schools don't have that requirement. They're not looking to do this project, they haven't taken on these projects. They can be an untapped resource for us because God knows they have so much impervious cover with the size of their parking lots or whether it's the size of their buildings. And in a lot of cases, these are very old school systems that perhaps those pipes are just dumping into the back into a creek, untreated. So we have an opportunity that we can get in there and do something. But across the board, we need assistance from the municipalities to get in and take care of that. Yes.
There's another great example in Mayapack, where I assisted in putting that educational outdoor, working with the stream and a sediment basin there and everything, and then they've, I mean, it's to the point where they're also involved with Globe, which is not only nationwide, but international, where the students are working with each other on water quality, so it's turned out to be a great opportunity for the school, the county, and the town.
I believe it was the one that was in front of high
The
school.
high school, yeah.
So perfect example of a project that got in that we can utilize that entire concept and keep finding projects like this. You don't have to do gigantic, ponds on these properties. Bioretention is a fantastic way to teach kids about infiltration and responsible water quality actions. This follows right in that vein, porous pavement and bioretention, where we installed this over at Scalpino Park in Southeast. Took a simple cul-de-sac island and turned it into a water system that we can utilize to treat all the runoff through the park. This is baseball fields, local area that we're able to one, replace parking lot with porous pavement. To get this treatment system in at a different location within the park. Now, porous pavement, I chose this one in particular because if you have a parking lot anywhere on municipal property that you intend on replacing or doing any work with, East of Hudson can construct a porous pavement system to provide you all with water treatment at no cost. So instead of the towns fronting the bill for repaving an entire parking lot, it is very easy to turn it into an actual retrofit and hit both right on the head. Granted, it's not, we cannot construct a new parking lot for you, but if you're replacing one, it is a fantastic way versus squeezing a retrofit. That's very, very easy. At this time of year, we absolutely have highway departments out there doing work, running around trying to solve the winter's problems. And down in Pound Ridge, we have a channel stabilization project where this channel was ripping through a private property that we're able to get in there, stabilize the whole thing. We got nearly 10 kilograms of credit. Step in and fix that one of the issues that the highway department had. I know that your departments are going out there and fixing these things. Please keep in mind and address this with them, that if they're out there doing these types of projects, it can become a retrofit, we can finance it, and we can work with you guys to make sure that there's phosphorus reduction credit assigned for work you're already doing. In particular, I chose this one because I want to hammer that point home, that it'd be great to have more communication coming in from the highway departments. Some are very good about picking up the phone and saying, hey, Kevin, does this work? This is a project, or this is just not something that we can do. In a lot of cases, I have to say, sorry, we can't do that, but I absolutely want to encourage you to make sure your highway departments are reaching out to us so that I have the opportunity to say yes or no, rather than, oh, we wish we could have done that. So when we're picking these projects, again, you know, I can only be in so many places at once. The idea here is for you guys to be able to give us feedback and be able to give us ideas of what projects that you have in your own municipalities. One, it helps you fix issues that you have that are occurring that maybe we don't see every day. But two, it makes sure that the right projects are getting selected. And that could be coming in from maybe a possible development that's going in. And an add-on for water quality can be included. Maybe it is catch basins that are in disrepair that can be turned into water quality. In the case that we see here, it's a streetscaping unit that can go in, replace an existing catch basin, and turn it into water quality treatment. We cannot buy new catch basins for you. That is considered replacing infrastructure. But what we can do is change your catch basins into a different type of product that does provide phosphorus reduction. So, you know, when we're looking out and you're doing your homework, I hope over the next few months, you know, look at any repaving municipal lots that you have coming up. Look at any types of parking lots that do go untreated within your park systems, and ways for us to possibly run with infiltration projects within your town. Infiltration is 100% reduction, and it can, while it's an expensive option, if we're getting 100% credit on something, there's a tipping point where it gets really, really efficient. And the opportunity to help you guys solve your problems while getting the phosphorus reduction taken care of is the goal here. You know, in other requirements that we might be able to help for in the future, we want to make sure these are still always on the map, because with the new permit that's out that everybody's neck deep in, you know, there is still always an opportunity for East of Hudson to help you with public education and outreach, any type of mapping and detection and monitoring throughout the systems. So please keep us in mind. I know, you know, this is running 2 years now that I brought this up, but please keep us in mind if there's any other ways that East of Hudson can continue to work. All right, so this brings us to funding East of Hudson over the next 5 years, which is a major point of discussion for a very long time now. We currently, for the next 5 years of the program, where we have to execute about 560 kilograms projects, we have $10 million to work with. In short, that is not enough. $10 million will get us moving, but there's going to be a need to come up with additional funding. Typically, our program has ran at about $70,000 per kilogram efficiency. We do our best to get that lower and lower every year, but in reality, that means that we have to account for about $35 million to reduce 460 kilograms, with an additional $5 million in admin costs. As I just said, we have 10. There is additional money that's been made available that we're in discussion with that may be able to come from Westchester County. I recently met with Putnam County, where they're showing some money that will be able to be made available to us. And I think the admin costs are getting better, but there's still a large gap between what we need for the corporation to keep everybody in compliance and what we already have. Yeah. So this chart here shows the annual administration cost projection, assuming we need $5 million to run the corporation. It shows the annual cost for administration plus capital improvements. And the last column being your total removal, each individual municipality's total removal that they need to meet to get to that 460 kilogram number. Supervisor Williams was kind enough to crunch these numbers for us in order to be able to present everybody.
The Williams and Lucas team.
Team Lucas and Williams. So the point of this is, again, going back to restate this, we have 10, we need more. If we don't come up with the more money, there's only one resource that we have to go to, and that's all of your individual municipalities. This is a scenario, this paints the picture of a scenario where we will need to build the individual municipalities to completely move this program forward and continue the phosphorus reduction program. At an annual admin cost, you can, I suggest you look at the numbers, we're just gonna pick one at random here. Yorktown at the bottom of the list, at about $70,000 annually, based off their phosphorus reduction number. And if we don't get any assistance for capital improvement projects, nearly $500,000 annually would have to come to us in order to execute this program. $500,000 from one municipality. Granted, Yorktown is one of the higher phosphorus reduction numbers, but there's a big gap between what it could be. But that is significant, and it's significant enough that I encourage you all to try to continue working with our executive committee and find a way to come up with new funding for the corporation.
So just to emphasize, some of what Ken has said, you know, we are currently finalizing a contract with DEP for $10 million, which will get us started for the first maybe 18 months. But we're gonna burn through that quickly, and that is limited to capital improvements only. There's no administrative cost. There's no, if we start a project and it doesn't go to fruition, we have to come up with that out of our own pocket. We have made requests to Westchester and Putnam. You met with people from, who'd you meet with from Putnam?
Well, we need just 45 minutes more.
Oh, all right. Because I have not heard anything from the legislature other than a couple of people saying, geez, we really gotta find some money. When we did this in for years 1 through 5, we received $10 million from Westchester and $8.2 million from Putnam. Right now, those funds are being depleted, and we are looking at getting a much smaller contribution from each of the counties as this moves forward. This leaves us in somewhat of a bind going forward, that we're gonna need to find alternate funding sources for sure. I know I've got something going into Nate's school, and hopefully, you know, we're gonna tackle some of this at the federal level. But honestly, it's gotta probably come through a dedicated funding source coming out of this state. That means lobbying our local representatives. You also need to be focused on grants to help offset this program. I know overall we've received a little bit more than $60 million for funding years 1 through 10, but we probably picked up another $4 million. We did all the accounting on it in grants between the Army Corps and, you know, what the individual municipalities have found. So we need to be more aggressive on grants, certainly, and we need to get focused on finding better projects than we've submitted to the DEC right now. Because a lot of the projects we've submitted by the DEC are gonna be expensive, costly, and may involve private properties that are not gonna end up reaching their completion. The executive committee did put a letter together, which we are encouraging you to share with your controllers and all your town boards, so everybody is aware of exactly where we stand and what this means going forward. Um, I envision this corporation going forward regardless of how we're gonna come up with the funding. Well, I don't know how individual municipalities are gonna do this, but, whether you do it as part of the Eastern Hudson Corporation and we're still achieving bubble compliance, or you try to do it on your own, it's gonna cost you the same. And this goes back to the overall problems we have with the total MS4 program that the state has come up with that is just incredibly expensive for all of us.
Well, the DEC also, as we're going through this last 5-year, MS4 permit, the emails that we had gotten from the DEC alluded to the fact that we had a lot more than 10 million coming in. And Rich and I went up and talked to Tom Snow not too long ago. He's going to go talk to the DEP. If I go back to 2000, and I think some of you may have been here in 2011 or 10 or so, when we started, before we formed this. The first meeting I went to when I got out of IBM was August in 2010. And it was all the Westchester supervisors, and we were sitting there saying, how much money should we ask the DEP for? And they were offering 10 million, and they said, well, if we ask for 15, and we're not gonna get 15, maybe 12, and I had no idea, so I said, how much is it gonna cost us, and nobody knew. So I went back to some of the Brian Gear reports I had done, and there were no numbers in them, but there were charts, and I measured all the charts with a millimeter ruler, and came up and said, it's gonna cost us $37 million. And I modeled it 3 different ways, doing them more aggressive ones first, doing them over, ramp up, and it varied from 35 to 37. And we met in Yorktown. There was about 40 of us there, I think. David Warren was in the meeting. I think Mike was there, Mike Myers was there too. I don't know if you were there, but they said, well, somebody said something, well, we'll give you 10 million. And I said, it's going to define it. I had all the charts and everything. I said, it's going to cost us 37. And I think David was taken aback by that a little bit. He said, we have to go look at this. This is ridiculous. And he came back and they gave us 37 million. Right? Because that's what it cost us. It comes out, it's from the Brian Gear report. We're doing a lot of this work on New York City property or for New York City and Lower Westchester, and none of those folks are in the watershed. So it's the watershed towns that are doing a lot of this work. I think had we known, at least had I known that the numbers that Tom, because I had added up the numbers that Tom Snow had given us from the DEC, I thought maybe we'd have 50 million, in total, not 10. Had I known it was going to be 10, I think we would have just said, okay, our third option is to go to court. And that may still be something we seriously want to do. Just because dump all of this on the towns here is a bit ridiculous. I don't even need Titica's Reservoir in my town. I'd be happy if they drained it, sold the land out, right? So that may be another option for us. And we, the reason that letter was sent out, I got a call from the calling supervisor saying, when do you need the money by? So you're being a little too easy here. That was a notification just saying, we got a problem. And the problem is a lot of big numbers. There's a couple of towns that do not have high kilograms. We didn't assign those kilograms, the DEC did based on what you heard. But a lot of us have pretty big numbers, and I'm probably averaging there, so I might be about 19 kilograms. You should know your kilogram count. If you don't, you should just guide it again for the next 5 years. So if we aren't in bubble compliance, you're responsible for that. And as Rich was saying, the benefit about being in bubble compliance is you can find a project that's efficient, so that it costs 55,000 a kilogram and not 70. When we did start out, the first one we worked on East Park, which was a summer project, was, I think it might have been over 210,000 kilograms.
Yes, it was 320.
320, I think the 210 was the number we heard, but 320 may have been it. So we've gotten pretty good at that. We've told people, no, we're not doing that project in your town. We're doing this one over in Carmel, wherever it happens to be, just because of their efficiency. The other thing I would suggest you look at also are ECWQIP drainage grants. I've gotten 2 or 3 that, it's been, I got Kevin and Raul and the previous folks here to look at it and say, this is a good one. I can pay 40% or 60% of the cost of this, which is, will you pay 40? And, the East of Hudson said, that's a very efficient project, so we have to do that. So that's another way for us to start looking for some stuff. Especially if you have projects in your town, but I would say if you think you have a project, you're gonna apply for it, you think you want the East of Hudson. To get involved, make sure you talk to Kevin. Make sure there's phosphorus remediation, and that not every project has drainage project, stormwater project has phosphorus, so. I'm pretty upset actually that we were kind of let down this path. I have emails, if I added up everything, it was about $50 million. And which is, I thought, pretty much what we needed with inflation and everything, but this is where we are right now. So that report, we're going lawyering up, I guess is the term, right? If George Roden has in fact. Have some discussions with people. I don't know what's gonna happen with the FAD money. Tom Snow did say he was gonna talk with the DEP. We have, what is it, keep 12 million? FAD.
What, but like 9 million, I think.
9 million is, yeah, a little bit less than that. Yeah. So that money has to go back to the DEP because that was only good for 2 years, 10, not for 11 to 15. And there's nothing, I believe, that's coming back to us in terms of FAD money.
Actually, I mentioned this a couple months ago, that we have been authorized to offer whatever's left over in the family that is currently operating us now, can be rolled over in a new contract, we have to come
I
back.
didn't know that.
And it needs to be, negotiated, new contract needs to be negotiated for equal amount of remaining funds.
But it's good that he says it again, because we love hearing that.
Yes, it would come after the 10 million.
Well, when you say after the 10 million, we have FAD.
The way I envision it would work, and I don't think we've had any kind of discussion as to how it would work. My opinion is that, there would be year 10 would end, there would be some kind of final accounting, there would be the amount, at the end of that accounting. At the same time, this 10 million contract is going to register, so you would begin work with the 10 million. We would then negotiate while that work with the 10 million is going, the new contract, an equal amount of the money that is paid.
So what we don't want to do.
That money would also be restricted to the basis.
Yes. So the trick is to allow us to, if we're using the 10 million and working on a FAD base to actually track it against the FAD money. Against the.
And if we could somehow,
There would have to be a negotiation about retroactive.
So okay, so that helps us a bit, that gets us to 20, we're now only 17 million in the hole.
but really what we want to do is we want to run concurrently together if we can. So how do we start discussions?
I could take that back and take it on that.
Because it's,
Maybe if you were to send me an email saying you would like to start discussion about it, what we,
Be happy to send you an email.
I'm sure you would.
so anyway, so I think you see some of the issues.
I'll get it sent to them.
As we speak.
So the executive board has been talking about this for some time. So Mike Sindrich, and well, you go down the list, you can see all the cards we have on this. Some of the elected officials don't take this seriously. It's disconcerting.
On that note, I would like to ask that Kevin share the PowerPoint so that we can all bring it back to our boards to help.
This is recorded also.
Okay, so that would be,
That would be better to have.
yeah, I would like both, to be honest, so that we can have a hard copy of PowerPoint and also have the link so that the board members can.
Yeah.
listen.
Well, you can listen to Kevin's voice, but put the screen, put the PowerPoint up to the full screen, it'd be probably better.
At which point do we need to decide whether the municipalities have to contribute? At which point in time?
We are not at that point, we will let you know.
Right.
Hopefully, we're gonna find a better path out of this.
There are a
That's
couple,
the, yeah.
yeah, there are, one of the issues that we do have is that, I don't believe we're getting the 10 million all at once, we're getting it kind of as we spend it.
Yeah.
Right,
I think there was, I forget exactly the details. There was
Yeah,
additional
a million here and
It's a
there.
million.
We go through the money pretty fast at times on projects, so that's gonna be very difficult for us.
And everybody also remember with this MS4 permit going into year 11, we're actually now in the second year, year 12. So we're already 2 years into the 5-year program established by the MS4 permit in 2024. So we've got a lot of catch up to do as well.
They've been very nice about calling them virtual year 10s on us, even though it's not maybe, right, so. And, you know, I'll just throw one other thing out, when you talk to the DEC up in Albany, and as I said, Rich and I went up about a month and a half ago. There's no other organization in the state of New York that kind of does what we do. They're very pleased. Tom Snow, his comments was, you know, they don't want us to go away, they're very pleased to hear. That's where we're leveraging some of that so that they go back and talk to other folks about taking some additional funds.
So you said Tom Snow's bring back to talk about additional funds. Have we presented them with a formal request for that? Is there like some
Well, the
numbers
first thing,
behind it
the one
that
thing that
you
he
can
did,
share with people?
yeah, I think one of the things that he was, one of the first things was simply to make sure that Fed money stayed with us. But it sounds like the DEP's gonna take that back and give it to us over time.
We provided in documentation, so he knows exactly what we're looking for and what it's gonna cost us.
And that's also the information that'll go in the email of any, like, what, how much we, you know, we want, how much we're gonna basically close out the year.
Well, the email going to Vinny is going to be requesting us starting negotiations on carrying over the funding that may be left over from years 1 through 11, 1 through 10. But yeah, so they're kind of two different issues.
I get that, right, it's just, are there numbers behind like the request for both? Are we just sort of saying we wanna start talking about this? Like, do they know we're asking for all of it?
They know exactly what, they know what the cost is for us. The question is, do they care? And they've been pushing us to become a taxing district for many years. And we somehow managed to get to that point, which, you know, the other alternative is to do nothing. And then let them come around and sue us too, so. That's not beneficial for anybody, but. I think we probably are gonna need to do more than just send them something else. At some point, so.
Even though we're not at a point for the funding yet, you know, it'll be budget season soon, so funding should be put aside in case it's needed.
You should certainly be looking at your overall MS4 program and funding it accordingly.
Unfortunately, for timing of villages, my budget's already done and it starts June 1st, so. That's a little bit of an issue when you're dealing with villages.
I think the real goal here today is you need to talk to the other folks that the elected officials that probably that aren't usually here that have no idea what's going on or why this is under here. This is created by us for us to deal with the complexities that everybody had to deal with. And you know, without Kevin here, we'd all need a Kevin. You know, without the East Hudson, we'd all have to rely on engineering fees and everything else.
Ellen?
If every single member of this corporation were at this table and in agreement that something needed to be done, what would your dream action be that we all take together? I mean, that you're saying that's the next step,
I don't
I'm
know
not
if
really
it's the
sure.
Hudson, I don't know if it's the coalition, I'd have to talk to.
So I think the one thing that if we were all united going in the same direction that we could be doing is to let our state and federal elected officials know the cost of this program impact our individual municipalities. And the need that if you want to keep this program intact as it is moving forward, then you need to fund it. or you need to dial it back somehow.
And it's not only the retrofit part of the program, it's also all the other 5 permit requirements that you need, that is a huge administrative cost to every town.
Yeah.
Just to ensure you're getting that done.
Yes.
And the development of education and your now procedures, just to have all that stuff in your stormwater management plan is a huge time.
Just for me to
consuming
create the
job.
report they
Yeah.
want, it's costing me 20 grand.
And then they change it just when you're done, you gotta be different.
We had that discussion with, that's it, with Christina. And she said, well, you know, we talked very simply, and this is the answer to the whole discussion, but talk about what we capture in catch basins, you know, the inflows, outflows, all this other. Because we're not done with, we're gonna come up probably, we're gonna go back now and look and come up with some more attributes we need to capture. Okay, well, already gone out to how many of them, now you're gonna have us go back to the ones you already did to figure out some other attributes, what is it depth with, you know, this is stupid.
It continues to be an unfunded mandate that we've been jumping through hoops for them. And they've never regurgitated anything back to us of have you accomplished anything jumping through these hoops.
Well, that's the empirical part of it, you know, have we actually solved anything, the answer is,
Right.
that things look much better in areas we've worked on, right? Whether that's made an impact to the entire area, I don't know the answer to that.
And they never show us the science as to why now they're looking at other things.
Because there's no science.
There is, yeah, but I mean. We have to answer, but they don't have to answer, and it's frustrating.
Do you guys have, just to be a crazy person, you know, common, do we have a lawyer that goes into this sort of stuff that we know?
Well, I'm
Because
not even sure if it's a coalition thing on the lawyer or a corporation.
Well, I'm just thinking about Pam Bondi with the climate stuff and the oil companies. That the feds came in and said to New York, cut the shit. You can't sue the oil companies unconstitutional. Is it possible that New York City is unconstitutionally doing this to us up here? With this watershed
So let's-
stuff, therefore,
so let's-
Pam
let's be
Bondi
clear.
grabbed them and said, cut it out.
This isn't the city that's actually doing this to us.
Okay, so DEC is
It's the state doing it to us.
And they go to DEC and say, you can't.
I got you back.
So, sorry, Vinny, it's not Vinny doing this to me, but it can they go to DEC and say, hey, we're gonna tell you it's unconstitutional, you can't tell some municipality up here, some little village or little town to save New York City's water. New York City build a water plant and slap them. Is that a possibility?
Well, they already built the water plant.
Or build another water plant and leave us alone with.
No, I got a better idea. Anybody been to Aruba? Anybody seen their desalinization plant down there? It's amazing. Absolutely.
Well, they're working on it out in California, with the pilot, taking the ocean water and they got.
They don't need to do pilot studies on them. I mean, they've got, you know, Dubai is a huge one.
Yeah.
Israel.
Yeah, Israel is.
Well, you do one that it doesn't disturb the marine, yeah. So just my thought, can we talk to them? And put a stop to it?
Well, I think we need to talk to our state representatives, and if New York City doesn't have any other option, then they will have to look at other options,
But they didn't do anything about MS4, our state representatives.
but a lot of this MS4, you understand, a lot of this MS4 program is not driven by New York City per se, it's driven by environmental organizations who want clean water everywhere, not just New York City reservoirs. We have heightened requirements because of the reservoirs, but, you know, I mean, the environmental organizations are pushing this for the streams and lakes in our communities. And that's all fine, well and good. We all want clean water. We all want clean lakes, but, you know, we need to have the flexibility to do what we need to do for the individual lakes. You know, not some boilerplate template nationwide. You know, one size doesn't fit all.
You also have to be able to afford it.
Yeah, without bankrupting the municipality to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My 2 cents.
Okay. Anyone else?
So, if you can bring the presentation back and just have that discussion with folks. I think Rich is happy to go too, I'm happy to go, just so that they need to understand I was happy to go. There's probably a bunch of us here that should be happy.
Does somebody joining us by Zoom have something to
Yes,
say?
Sabrina?
You're muted.
I would actually like I missed kind of the beginning half of this discussion and I apologize. So if the intention is for us to bring this letter to our controller, our town board, what is the process right now? Have we asked for money and we're hoping to get it and we may not get it and then this is what we need, or do we currently have a shortfall?
I would say we currently have a shortfall. We've asked for money. We have not heard back whether any other additional funding will be forthcoming. So essentially, when we're gonna get the $10 million as restricted funds. Hopefully, we're gonna get money from Westchester. I believe they've committed. I don't know where Putnam stands at this point. But hopefully we'll have money to go for another year or two. But after that, the money's lost.
So can I wanna, there's a history here that not many are aware of, right? When in when the MOA was being negotiated many years ago, it wasn't until the governor's office got involved that it was actually reached an agreement, right? So is there a way to reach out to somebody in the governor's office to help us get action on this?
I have had conversations with representatives of the governor's office who came down to my office and we talked about issues, affecting local municipalities. Haven't heard anything back. Certainly, we can send a letter to the governor. I don't know that that's gonna go anywhere.
Okay, I'm just trying to think of different ways to try to garner everyone's together and approach these entities, because it's, I know there's administrative costs. This is hugely expensive. Every town is dealing with this, but the retrofit program, I think, is a different type of beast in that, you have to find projects that have phosphorus removal potential and be able to afford to implement them. Right. And the umbrella compliance was key for all of us to equally share in projects to meet that phosphorus reduction obligation. So there's a lot here that is keeping us compliant, if you will. I just want to be prepared that, we're doing everything we can to try and get the money.
Well, that's one of the reasons that the executive committee decided to put this together, so everybody knew exactly what, how it was gonna affect them if we don't get the money. With the hopes that would raise some eyebrows.
Well, I've also asked a couple of times, for the documentation that we submitted to Tom Snow to show the projections, to show the cost of the program, how much we need, why, some of the points Sabrina made about global compliance and how it is working, have we presented that package to the state that he's taking and showing other people the numbers and the rationale? I know we put this together for the town.
He has all this data.
But we have that in the same, pitch, so we could share it with our elected officials and the governor.
What we gave Tom Snow, Tom understands this pretty well, so the data we gave him is, Chris Burdick will understand it because he was involved, Peter Arkham may, Matt Slater, probably he was supervisor, he'll understand it a little bit, so, but it needs to be in a little more.
If they're gonna share it with people who haven't been deeply involved in this, we have to have it in a succinct sort of projection.
On a high level, we have a kilogram number for the next 5 years. What is it, 459 or 495? It's under 500, and it's about 70,000 a kilogram. Maybe better.
I think
so. It comes out to 35 million. It's a pretty simple math problem.
I think what you're asking for, Ellen, I think I can pull together and supplement the presentation so that there's more of a easily understood document without having to hear someone talk about it. And it's just point blank, these are admin costs, this is where we're operating, historical, we have that data, we can pull together, I'll
That would be
share. And you can help me get it concise to a point that is presentable to
Great.
the board of legislatures that necessarily doesn't know who we are. And we can
Yeah.
work it.
And I also think that type of document will help with the municipalities, right? You know, for a new town board member, you know, to understand this is what we've been working, and it's easy to digest, because we've all been living and breathing it, some of us for decades longer than others, but we understand. And, you know, Tom Snow, he understands, right? But how well does Tom Snow really talk about it to other people?
Yes, right. Where's the follow through?
I don't know. All I know is Tom Snow has an earlier version of this with all the numbers on it. He has the spreadsheet. He knows what we've been spending. If he needs more information, we certainly can provide it to him. We haven't heard anything. So, and we did go up and we did go through it in detail with him and one of his staff. Any other questions? Oh, sure. We have a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you all for coming.